Welcome back to the League of Hustlers, ladies and gentlemen. You know what it is. It's a motivational podcast where every week we try to give you motivation and education based around financial freedom, setting goals, hitting goals, and accomplishing the things that you want to in your life. In this episode, we got a request in from a member of the League of Hustlers who asked us, how do you build your credit fast? Okay. Now, I'm no expert in building credit, but I do know somebody who is really good at it. And just so happens, he happens to be the co-host of this show. So what we want to do with this episode is just talk about how do you build your credit fast, and start from a beginner level, and maybe in a later episode we'll bring someone on or really go into depth with this topic in particular. But we just wanted to have a free-flowing conversation and just answer some of those questions about how do you build your credit fast. All right, so let's just jump right into it. CD, how do you build your credit fast? What are some tips? First off, what is credit? What is credit?
You have an idea of what credit is. It's basically your how other companies, specifically banks, view you, how they view or value your relationship in regards to lending you money. Your credit worthiness is based on a bunch of factors that they kind of use to say this person is going to pay you back your money. Basically, you understand how this works. You have certain friends that if they ask to borrow $100, you would have no problem giving them the money. They're credit worthy. You're going to get your money back in a reasonable amount of time. Other friends, in your personal scale, you may not give them $100 unless you're not really, looking to get that money back, because that they're not going to get it back to you. So banks do the same thing. You got to think of it like that. Banks are basically calculating how each individual that they interact with, how credit worthy is this person? If I loan them $10,000, am I actually going to get that money back? Of course, there's interest and everything like that. But if you're starting out with no credit and you're looking to build credit, there's a couple things that you need to get through. All right. Number one is credit cards are not bad. All right. That's a big misconception. Credit cards aren't bad. What's bad is how people use credit cards. All right. You actually need, a part of like your credit score is about the total number of accounts that you have. So it's like, imagine if you have a group of friends and you got one person that vouches for you, says, hey, this guy is good. That's one line of credit basically. But if you got 10 people that say that guy is good, he's good for his money, he's good for his money, he's going to get it back, no problem. That's, boosts up your credit worthiness. So like having credit lines is good for you, and credit cards is an easy way to get lines of credit. It's easier to get a credit card than it is to go and get a car. It's easier to get a credit card than it is to go get a big loan or a house. A credit card is kind of where you want to start at. But if we're talking about building credit fast, maybe we should save that for the end. H, what you think?
Yeah, so let's just talk about it, right? So I think to your first point, just to recap that first point. So understand that your credit is like, it basically means your ability to follow through on your promise to pay money back, right? So it's like your credit worthiness, like how credible are you? Okay, so that's the first key point I think that we should make. how credible are you at keeping your word on paying the money back, right? And that was a misconception or just a kind of vagueness that I had, growing up and not knowing, as a teenager, you go to college and they're throwing you credit cards left and right, and you know nothing about it. You just think, oh, I got a car and they said it's a, $2,000 limit on it. I just got $2,000. It's like, no, that is not how credit works. So how should someone use credit, right? I think that's one thing I had to learn too as a youngster, not to look at it like it's additional money, right? It's not additional money. It kind of can be used like additional money, but is like, how should we separate the two, or what's a better way to approach that?
Right. So this is the League of Hustlers, man. So number one, a great way is to leverage credit to build something of your own that's actually going to generate income. All right. A lot of people aren't going to get out here and get this huge business loan, right up front. However, most people can get their hands on a credit card. They're basically giving them out. It's up to you, however, on how you use them. You can go, of course, and you can go buy you a steak dinner. You can go buy a couple pair of shoes. You can go on a vacation, and you can max your card out that way. Or if you've got a plan in place, you can actually fund your startup business. You can fund your hustle. You can kind of scale your hustle a little bit, or at least use it to help figure out your hustle. It may not be perfect in the beginning, but you can use this credit as leverage to kind of put you in the game with your hustle to the point where you can reach more people, have access to some of the tools that you need. Let's say, for example, you may need, if you're a photographer, for example, all right, and let's say you need, some equipment that you don't have the money for right now. If you get a credit card, you can go ahead and get the equipment. You may already have the clients, to cover the cost of the credit card. You just boost up your photography skills and games by having that extra equipment. The quality of your work should go up. Okay, if you're already getting customers, you already got money coming in to cover the bill, you're good to go. So you can use it, to add on and to develop your hustle. But the key is going to be how you actually use the credit. All right, if you get out here and you are just going on vacation and you don't have a way to cover the debt at the end of the month, the next month, you're going to be starting to get those phone calls. Your credit score is going to plummet. They're going to report you, and that's how a lot of people end up in, bad debt type scenarios, bad credit.
Yeah. So, and that's a key point to make, right? So it's not that, like, credit can be good, right? So sometimes it gets a bad rap, but it can be used for good, such as you need a car loan, or you want to buy a house, or you have, like, that's a really good example about, like, you have a photography business and you need to buy some equipment. But the key to it is that you shouldn't be getting more than you can afford. Right? You shouldn't be charging more on that card than you can afford. You need to have a way to cover that cost at the end of the month, right? So are we, to that point, are we talking about a minimum balance, or are we talking about, because I hear, a lot of people talking and saying that you shouldn't go over a certain percentage of the total amount that you're able to borrow against on the card. Right. So some people are saying 30%, some people are saying 10%. So I know in the past, like, friends, we have mutual friends that we know have charged, like, maxed out their cards. Right. So what's a good approach to managing the credit card, like, month to month?
Yeah. So essentially, It depends on what I would say. It depends on what your goals are, right? So a lot of people take on the mind frame of if they're trying to get a higher balance on the card. Let's say you starting out with only $2,000 and you're trying to get it up to, you want them to loan you 5,000 on the card, or you want to have that available credit of 5,000. You need to show your credit worthiness. Basically, you need to get close to the max of the card. You don't need to go over, but be able to pay it down. Get close, pay it down. Get close, pay it down. Now the bank can look at this and say, hey, okay, he can easily afford to pay this maximum amount down, this $2,000 balance down easily. He needs more credit. Along with that, also, it comes with your income and everything. And, a lot of times they ask you that, or they request that information over time. How much money are you making now? How much money are you making now? How much money are you making now? That goes into it too. And you should be making more money, man. If you've got credit, man, please use it as an opportunity to kind of flex with your hustle a little bit. Use it to grow your business. Use it to build your hustle. Don't use credit on frivolous things that you're just going to pay for. If you buy a steak dinner flat out for $30, $50, it costs you $30 or $50. All right. If you buy stuff like that on credit cards and they give you that 20% interest rate, that 15% interest rate, that, and you don't pay it off at the end of the month, and the months go on and you're just paying that minimum balance, that same steak dinner, is going to cost more. You're paying like, it's silly, you know what I mean, to now pay, basically 1.5 times more, 1.25 times more than what you would have paid originally for that same steak dinner or vacation.
Hold on right there. That's a really good point. So that's why we should not be going over, right, and letting that bill carry over to the next month, because you have those percentages, right, that they're tacking on if you go over or past the due date, right? They're tacking on an additional percentage. So whatever you cost, if you bought something that costs $100, if you go past that due date, they're adding on a percentage, right? So it doesn't cost $100.
It's not even if it goes past the due date. It's just the nature of somebody borrowing money from somebody. Even if you don't go past the due date, you have to pay the interest on it. The interest rate is generally an annual, it's an annual thing. It's an annual interest rate. But for example, if your annual interest rate is, let's say it's 12%, all right, then that means every month, that's 1% that you're going to have added to that bill, all right? Most people don't have, credit cards are generally, you can get an entry card, 0% or whatever, but credit cards tend to be higher in interest rate. You're looking at 12, 15, 18, 19, 20. And if you start missing them payments, they're gonna bump you up to 30. That's a big deal. You spend $100. Let's say you spend $1,000 and you got a 30% interest rate over the course of a year. That's $300. That's a third of whatever you spend over the course of that year on the card. That's insane.
Wow.
All right. So you got to be careful with that whole game right there. But the thing back to the card usage though, essentially it's about your goal. You can, move, you want to use the card and then pay it down. Use the card, pay it down. All right. Ideally, a lot of people say you want to be using less than 30% of your available credit. I've heard people say if you want it to be a positive thing on your credit, then you need to be below 9%. Like, in order to not get negative hits, you don't want to be over a certain, close to the max. But if you want it to be a positive thing on your report, like add points to your score, you want to be under 9%.
Okay, so under 9%.
That's what I've heard.
Okay. Okay. So let's back up. All right. And or let's switch gears a little bit, because this episode is about how to build credit fast, right? And that I guess that key point right there is more like maintaining it. So So let's talk about how can one build credit fast, right? So
Yeah.
you know,
Number one, man, the number one, like the easiest way to build credit fast is to get on somebody else's credit that actually has good credit. That's the easy, like flat out, the fastest way you can actually get credit is to become an authorized user, and kind of piggyback on somebody that actually has good credit.
yeah,
You
not just
assume,
anybody now.
right? Not just anybody.
You
If
get
you
on the wrong one, your score go down. So
Right, exactly.
good
If
credit,
you
right?
tag along with somebody who has a bad score, you know, you're in bad company. It's going to reflect on your score the same way. All right. So you need, number one, you got to look at they need to have great payment history, the age of their cards. The big part of credit score is about time. So if you're talking about building credit fast, it's hard to do that on your own from scratch. It's not going to happen per se fast because a big part of it is time. So if you have a friend, a partner, even people's spouse, a lot of people, when you get married or partner up, then you guys assume that credit together, and that's how a lot of people get good credit as well. That's one of their partners may have had good credit. But you got a person that has had good credit for over a decade or had these trade lines open for over a decade, and you can get on. Now you're a part of that credit history, and that gives you good credit fast. That's the fastest way to get it. However, you got to keep in mind though, if that person takes you off their credit, you're off. So at the same time, you can't just piggyback on someone else. You also need to be building your credit on your own at the same time. And the easiest way to do that is to get the credit cards and let them build over time. Use them responsibly, pay them off, use them, pay them off, use them, pay them off. Pick credit cards that have rewards. You should be getting something in return, you know what I mean, for doing this. It's not, the bank shouldn't be getting all of the perks. You should be getting some of the perks too. You're paying them interest rate. They should be paying you something, gas points, something, flight miles, anything. Try to get something that has rewards and then just build from there, man. But it's really about time and just being responsible.
And so to recap that last point, the fastest way to build credit is to become an authorized user on someone else's credit who has a good credit history, right? That's what we're saying.
Absolutely. And a lot of people do this for their kids anyway, right off the bat.
Right.
A lot of people put their kids on their, credit history. They may put them on a card, and that way their kids can begin, building that credit on, of theirs. Even before they are getting credit cards and things like that, they may have a credit score and don't even know. But a lot of people do that. They put their kids on their cards as well.
Right.
Associated with that credit line.
And see, it used to be, I think, in the, a running joke, right? A lot of times people would say that, parents would put their, like a light bill or something in their kid's name, or, a car note in their kid's name and stuff like that. So, and that's the negative side of it, right? But we're talking about using it positively. So positively, if you are a parent and you're keeping up with your payments and you have good payment history, why not go ahead and give your kid, that extra step up in life? So question, how old do you have to be? Is there like a minimum age, or is there an age limit? Can you be 16, 18? Is there a minimum age that you have to be before someone can add you as an authorized user?
No, so an authorized user, I don't think there's a minimum age requirement. A lot of places don't even, so they're going to ask for, I have to look that up, man. I do know they ask for like your name, they ask for your date of birth or social. They ask them for that identifying information, but I don't think that there is, in terms of an authorized user, a minimum age requirement. We'll have to look that up because the primary card owner is the responsible party for making that payment. if and that's kind of the thing with being an authorized user. You're not going to be the responsible party. You're going to get the negative hit on your score, but when the bank come to collect their money, they're going for that primary card holder. They're not going after, the authorized user. So I don't think there is an age requirement on that. We'll have to look that up though.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so that would be given, that's one step to generational wealth right there. Like imagine coming out of the blocks with a good credit score, right? You're, 18, 19, even, 21 with a good credit score.
Right.
Because I know, bro, like
Right.
I know countless examples. I just remember being on the yard at the illustrious Winston-Salem State University, and there used to be like there used to be tables set up of multiple credit card companies just out there like, hey, do you have a credit card? And ended up, like numerous friends of ours that ended up racking up so much credit card debt because of that. I don't think they're allowed to, like promote that hard, and we're kids, man. We're like 18 years old. We don't know, APR, and annual fees and,
right.
All of this stuff that comes along with like a credit card. We're just thinking like, oh, we got a credit line of $3,000 or $5,000, but so this stuff is critical. So on the reverse side, it's like start teaching your kids now, like show them this episode so that they start to understand what credit is. So first off, credit is like your credibility to stand up or to follow through on your word to pay something off, right? If you want to build credit fast, add yourself, or you can't add yourself, but have someone with good credit already add you as an authorized user. So you're going to need to know someone who has good credit and who's willing to add you as an authorized user. That's boom, right? It's almost instantly your score will go up over the course of a few short months. Next, what's the second best way to build credit fast?
Immediately after that, you need to start establishing your own lines of credit. You need to get credit cards. Is the easiest way to get credit and maintain credit. If you don't have credit, it's hard to go out and buy out. You need credit, man. You gotta have it. All right. Unless you plan on buying your house cash, unless you plan on buying all your cars cash, and even now, they make it very difficult for you to do that. Like I know somebody that actually tried to go out and buy a car with all cash and they wouldn't let him do it. He had to go through a bank and get finance. He had to, use the bank and get the credit and then pay it off that way. But the dealership would not take the cash. So you need credit. So you need to start building it up. The easiest way to do that after you get that trade line, if you're able to do that, great. The next step would be to get the credit cards. It's low hanging fruit. Credit cards are great. There's nothing wrong with them. There's a lot of bad misconceptions about that.
Right.
But it's really about how you use them. All right. It's about how you use them. It's about being responsible. Credit cards are great. They're good. A lot of people use them. Businesses use them. You can get perks and points and extra things from them, and it's the easiest way to build credit, without having much credit.
And so this is how I'm looking at it now. So the way I approach credit now is it's just the convenience of not having to carry cash around, right? So you still spend regular, right? It's not, on that normal day-to-day level, you don't go out here and do more spending because you have a credit card, right? You spend just normally, right? It's just that you're, instead of paying for it cash, put it on the card, right? And then you're paying it off almost immediately as soon as you go home, or just definitely before the due date, right? Right. And that's pretty much it, right? It's like cash. So you're spending regular. So the things that you're that you regularly pay for in cash, just put it on a credit card. The things that you would charge on a debit card, just put it on a credit card, right? And then pay it off with your debit card, link it to your bank account, whatever. But that way you're building up this credit history, right? You're building up your credibility, right? And it's just like CD said earlier in the episode, like, in the street, you got a friend and they ask to borrow money. If they don't follow through on their promise, they're kind of looked at like a untrustworthy person. Like, I can't trust you to pay me back, right? So it's your credibility is on the line. But this credibility will open up doors on a much larger level. It'll open up doors in terms of, a loan for a house. It'll open up doors in terms of a loan for a car. And it'll also, what I'm finding out now, what I'm actually going through now is building business credit, right? And so as I'm going and applying for business credit, the one thing they're asking me is about my personal credit, right? Why? Because you have to establish, or when you're establishing or going for business credit, they want to know about your personal credit first because you don't have business credit, right? And so they're looking at your personal credit, right? So it's beneficial all the way around, right? So go ahead and start building your personal credit so that if you do have an idea for a business, or you need some equipment for your business, or you need some supplies, some materials, so on and so forth, you'll have that personal credit, right, that you can use to back your business credit. That way you can build up your business credit, and then you won't have to use your personal credit. But when you're starting off with business credit, you have to build up your personal credit. Okay, so it's a win-win all the way around. Just use the card. It's more convenient, right? And that's gonna help build it fast. So first off, try to get on someone's that has good credit. Try to get on their credit as an authorized user in terms of building credit fast. Second off, you need to be building it yourself simultaneously. How many would you say is there a minimum amount of credit that you should have, or like how does that work? Should you have a certain number of credit cards? Is there? I know we talked about trying to keep the balance below 9%. Some people say 30%, but I like that 9% rule. That way it'll kind of keep you in check. But what would you say in terms of like the amount of credit? Is there something to that?
The number of credit lines, we're talking about number of lines. The more you have, the better. Basically, you have to look at it from the perspective of each line is basically a person that's vouching for you, a bank that's vouching for you. So over here, if you have Bank of America, you got I got a credit card with Bank of America. Bank of America checks in and says, he's good. I got another card with Chase Bank. Chase Bank checks in and says, he's good. I got Discover. Discover says, that boy is good. You know what I mean? So now the more banks are basically stamping me with, their approval, the better it looks for my overall credit score. Everybody's checking in and saying that I am good and responsible with the money, that I'm credit worthy, that I'm going to pay back the money that I borrow in a timely and responsible fashion. That's good, so the more trade lines you have, the better. Also, you don't want to have like 50, obviously. You need to have a decent number that you can manage, but the more is better. 3 is better than 1, 4 is better than 1. I would say just have something that you can actually manage. I wouldn't go to 15 or 20 or anything like that, but definitely if you've got like 5, I think that's fair. If you've got 5 credit cards that you manage reasonably, some of them you may not even use, or maybe you use one only when you go on vacation. Maybe you use one like H was just.
Yeah, so I was gonna say, is that going back to like that credibility? So you have multiple accounts open that are in good standing. It's like, oh, this guy is really credible, right? If
Right.
you have one
They-
card, it's like, oh, this is okay, right? You're credible.
Right.
But if you have five that you've been paying on time and you've been using responsibly, it's like, oh, this person is really credible, right? So it's like
Exactly.
having those multiple cards is showing you know, lenders that you are even more credible. Is that right?
That's exactly right, man. It's just like, look at banks as banks are people, man. Basically, those institutions and what they say about you matters, obviously. So the more of those banks that you have checking in with the credit bureaus and saying that you are credit worthy, the better your score will be in the long run. So, I mean, credit cards is where you start off at, and then maybe you'll end up getting a car through another bank, you know what I mean? And maybe you'll get your home through another bank, or maybe you'll have a loan through another bank. But ultimately, over time, you know, those lines are going to make your score high. That's how you're going to have, if you're looking to get like in the 800, that's how it's going to happen. You're going to have plenty of lines open in good standing with a nice age on the accounts, great cards usage to not too high, not too low, excellent payment history. Of course, the timeliness of your payments is like the number one hit that you can get. You need to be on time with that every time. Never miss a payment, never be late with the payment, and you'll be good to go, man. There's nothing wrong with having 7 credit cards. Keep them balances in check and pay on time every time. And now you got 7 banks saying that this guy is good. At the same time, you missed them 7 payments. Now you got 7 banks that's going to say you're in bad standing. So it's going to be a great hit going up, but it could be a terrible hit going down if you miss all 7 of them payments. So that's why you got to make sure you're in good standing, be responsible with it, and don't just be out here just buying stuff frivolously.
Right. Yeah, that's a really good point. That's a really good point. The same way as it works going up, it works the same way going down, and it may be even worse, right? If you have a large number of them and you're, showing not credible on a large number of them, doesn't look so good for you, right? So cool, man, cool. And I think, well, I know this is definitely something that we need to revisit like over and over, right? Because it has so many implications, right? And I know for me growing up, credit was always, I don't know why and I don't know where, but it always had a negative, connotation for some reason. I can't remember why or where, but it was just like credit was bad, right? And it was like, don't get credit cards. You know what I mean? I don't know if I got it from movies or what, but I just remember growing up thinking credit is bad. Don't get credit, pay in cash, or, do something else, but credit cards are bad. And so I avoided it for a long time. Even in college, like I never got a credit card, even though they were promoting them. But that also led to me not understanding credit, right? And not fully knowing that it's actually a tool and it actually can be used in a good way, i.e. to build a business, right? I think we had a story, we told a story a while ago about when we were about to buy a Subway franchise. And that was one of the things, right? So Subway had a few banks, I want to say like 3 or 4 banks, maybe 2 or 3 banks that they work with directly in terms of when you go to purchase a Subway, these banks would loan you the money to build it, to furnish it, to, basically build the whole thing and get it to a place where it's done, right? You come to the table, with a minimum amount of money, but they had these banks set to the side that were intentionally put there to service subway owners loans, right? And so again, me not knowing, right, what credit is, how to, like just the whole thing, I looked at it as a negative thing. It's like, oh, this is a loan. Like, oh, I don't know about a loan, right? And that was one of the main reasons why I was hesitant to do it. It was like, oh, you kind of, because I didn't know about it. But now just imagine, with the knowledge that we're kicking in this episode, if you are teaching your kids this stuff growing up, and so they understand, like, yo, you use credit as leverage, right? You build up your credit, and it can be used to grow something, right? And look at, so many people use credit to build businesses, to the point where, that little loan amount that they may charge you a month, you have a popping business and you're making 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 times that amount, like no sweat, and you're paying it off like it's nothing. Right? But I always, think that was a real eye-opening story, and there was so many lessons in that story. But that was one of the main things. It's like credit, and this wasn't. I don't know if you remember, but I can't remember what the total amount was going to be on it, but it was like hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? That we were about to go into debt. And I just always had this, this thing in my head where it's like, oh, debt bad. But it's like, no, actually there's some good debt, right?
Yeah. So yeah, and that's the association that people make right there. Credit equals debt, debt equals bad. But really, when we're talking about bossing up and we're talking about financial freedom and financial literacy and all of that, the real conversation is about debt management. That's really what it's about. If you look around, all these big buildings going up in your city, wherever you are, if somebody's building skyscrapers, chances are they didn't pay cash up front for these buildings. You know what I mean? Like, you have to be partners with the bank. You need the bank to help you finance some of this stuff, and then you pay the bank back. And just like H was saying, you need to have a sufficient plan to basically where you can easily pay the bank back their money and still make, much more than what you're paying back. And it's about debt management, and you can really use, your credit worthiness as a big tool in terms of your financial freedom and on your path to being wealthy, man. It's important. It's a must-have. There's not many big ticket items you can buy without credit. So start working on building your credit.
Yes, sir. There you have it. The main key to building your credit fast. The main key is find someone with good credit and get added as an authorized user, right? Then next step, simultaneously, start applying for your own credit. Start paying on it, right? So instead of paying for stuff in cash, pay for stuff on that card, right? And that way you're gonna help build your own credit. There are also, it's so much stuff behind this. We can't pack it all in one episode, man. This is a whole industry within itself. But this is critical information that we need to start sharing, and we need to get comfortable talking about, and we need to start working on. All right, so stay tuned. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit that like button. If you think this episode could help someone that you know build their credit, go ahead and help us out. When you engage in the comments, and when you click the like button, and when you subscribe, and when you share these episodes, it really helps the channel. So if you heard something in this episode that helped you, why don't you help out the league and help us get this message out here? It's for you, it's for us, it's for the culture. All right. But again, we're signing off. This has been another wonderful episode of the League of Hustlers. If you have any questions, feel free to hit us up. This is HT signing off.
Be gone.
Yeah, man.
Prepare to prosper.